Welcome back to the Smite Challenger Circuit, everybody. Aggro joined by Mifflin as we head into our final set of the day. And Miff, I gotta say, I know that you've been working with the amateur team and casting all these qualifiers and all that kind of stuff. This has been the set that I've been the most excited for here today. I think that what we have coming up here could be really, really fun. We've got Snake Hunters up against Accounting Department and a lot of console veterans that you and I are very familiar with on that Snake Hunters team, and a lot of SPL former players on that Accounting Department's team. So I think it could be a lot of fun to see how this one shakes down.
Look, I say it every single time, and it's the one time that I think I'm allowed to flex that I used to play the game competitively, aggro. On the side of Snake Hunters, there is a particular player going by the name Vaporish Coast. You might actually know him by the moniker the Penta Kid. Yeah, he did that to me at a summer LAN, and then I think he was like 13 years old, and then his dad was there actually, and his dad was popping off on me, and I never felt more emasculated in my life. So we gotta only hope that Vaporish Coast has got Papa Coast in the sidelines rooting for his boys.
Yeah, I kind of think of it as like pre-Penta Mifflin and post-Penta Mifflin. Like I'm
a shill of a man.
Right, from your eyes at that very moment, and it has yet to return. We'll see if Snake Hunters ADC could do the exact same thing to the stacked lineup of Accounting Department. At least the one that we assume to be pretty stacked. We'll kind of get into their team in a little bit. But, Miff, what have you seen from the Snake Hunters squad during the qualification process?
It is a team that is very willing to play around Vaporish Coast, especially considering in Season 8 how strong Hunters really are. We've seen that from these last couple of teams, the junglers are putting a lot of fixation around that soul lane, trying to gank over there. I think Rapio, in particular, is a guy who is going to play around this duo lane almost constantly, unless something's changed since 4 days ago, last time I got to cast this team. If that's not the case, maybe we see him shift his focus over towards solo, but I'm really expecting it's going to be the Vaporish Coast show as far as Snake Hunters are concerned.
It's been so long since you casted with Blazy Bard, huh? Like, when you think of it that way,
like, dude.
It's been a long time. Good to be back and working with you, Miff. That's a reference for literally you,
Blazy,
me, the other casters, and Blazy and the production team. Those are the only people who could ever understand that reference. But that's my whole style. That's what I'm kind of going for day in and day out. I'm excited to see what this Accounting Department team is going to do, Miff, because obviously so much talk about this squad. They tried to get into SPL, didn't quite make that cut. Then they take a little bit longer to qualify than a lot of people may have expected. Has it been that they've just been a little sloppy? Have they been on the up and up recently? Give me the breakdown for Accounting Department.
Look, I'm going to tell you the truth, because you're my boss, Aggro, and I'm allowed to speak candidly with you. Accounting Department is a team that is so hard to lock down because I didn't get to see them play until the very last week of the qualifiers because they struggled so much finding their spot in the SCC. They were getting first rounded and second rounded by teams that really I had no idea who was on them, or teams that we're not going to see in the SCC because they didn't make it. It's hard to say whether or not maybe Accounting Department was working through some things in the early phases as a team, or maybe they weren't taking it too seriously. But since we have started to see them, they've really cleaned up. They're a team that is very reminiscent of old European Smite. They're willing to wait until that late game and then finally 30 minutes in start to play that aggressive style, generally around Streamline, which is a name change. That is Deathwalker for some of you more eagle-eyed fans at home. And keep your eyes on Wolfie as well, one of the most recent additions to the SCC and one of the most recently in the SPL.
Definitely had a solid run last year on that Obey Alliance squad. You'd think that he's going to come here and be a leader for this team with that most recent SPL experience. Ice definitely had flashes of old Ice last year, but a lot of inconsistencies, I'd say, for him in that jungle. Want to see how consistent Ice and Kalas and Deathwalker, aka Streamline, can be here in this set. I've got a lot of expectations for Wolfie, having been in the SPL a little bit more recently than those guys, but I'm excited to see what they can bring because they've got a lot of fans, and for a good reason. It's a fun group of guys that people really like to watch play, but haven't really seen them execute to their full potential recently. Let's see if they can do it today up against Snake Hunters. Let's get into picks and bans for game number 1. Miff, this is my first broadcast here for Season 8 in the competitive side of things at the higher levels. I've been a little bit surprised at the lack of some gods being picked. Set comes to mind is one that we haven't seen a whole lot of today. Has that been typical?
It has been, much to my own personal chagrin as well, Aggro. Set has been left largely by the wayside. Persephone doesn't get nearly as much priority as you might expect, especially considering how dominant both of those gods were back in Season 7. Really, we're starting to see a distinct meta being developed not only in Europe, but also in North America very differently. Europe puts a lot more fixation around these healers, these in-combat healers, like Guan Yu, who's already been banned out. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Chang'e followed up, and then even potentially a Cthulhu, because that seems to be really how these teams have been shaking out their meta.
Yeah, I like the bans that Snake Hunters have gone for here. Giannis and Athena. Athena feels to me we got to see her in 2 games in the very first set of the day. One of those games she looked really, really strong. The other was against Elysium, so what can you say? It does end up being that Aphrodite ban there for the Snake Hunters. Chang'e still open, as you mentioned. Persephone. The Scylla still seems to be like a priority pick for a lot of these teams. The Nemesis still very, very strong. But a lot of healers take it off here, Mifflin. Guan, Yamoja, Chang'e clearly healing on the mind here for the accounting department.
But they've left so many high priority picks available. One of the best hunters in the game still available, Apollo, might be picked up by Snake Hunters in this first slot, but instead it's going to be Tsukiyomi, likely going to the jungle, but we've also seen this team flex it into the solo every now and then. So we'll see whether or not this is going to be a flex pick for this squad, but taking Tsukiyomi in your first slot overall, this isn't the most contested pick in the game right now. Now, accounting department has a lot of options. This could be Apollo set, and I would love it if it were.
Has Danzaburo not been competing with Apollo at that same level in the hunter role, in your opinion?
I think that Danzaburo has the potential for it, but with duo lane as it is, it's so easy to find ganks with how long the lane is. Danzaburo really struggles if he's got anyone who's able to get in that point-blank range. Really, we've seen that it's really been a priority of Apollo, and then on her, and then we see Uller come through every now and then with Danzaburo maybe as that 4th overall pick, and it's going to be Apollo that rounds out accounting department's top 2 here. You love to see it. We'll see whether or not Snake is going to go ahead and take their hunter in this 2 slot.
Yeah, I like the call you made there because it's exactly what they end up going with. The set, a classic pick for Ice Ice. He usually goes a little bit more tanky with the build. If it is going to be for him, of course, you could put that into the solo lane pretty easily. As Scylla is the pick here for Snake Hunters. As we've said, this has kind of been the priority in the mid lane as of late. Still just has the best killing potential on tanks, and a pick like Sobek to set it up makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, this Sobek pick is incredibly strong, and it keeps that flex mentality going. We could have this Sobek potentially go into support, which is where he finds his home more often than not, but we could also have him flex into solo. We don't really know whether or not Tsukiyomi is really going to the jungle just yet, so I really like what's happening across the board here. But with Snake Hunters bypassing the Hunter in their top 3, it means that accounting department has a pretty clear path they can go down if they want to deal with the next best in line as far as Hunters go. Could just go ahead and ban out that on her, or even the Danzaburo if they so choose. We'll see how they decide to pan it out. Ardio getting locked in. I think that might be a support Ardio, but again, could flex in a solo.
Yeah, it feels like it has that potential, and with the set having that flex potential, and now the Ardio could make Snake Hunters bans a little bit more awkward here. And if I'm in their shoes, I'm probably just looking at what Wolfie's going to do in that mid lane, and they do, at least with the first one, in that Merlin. A little surprised to see Ardio prioritized this highly. I mean, it is a pretty solid pick. I think she's probably undervalued a little bit, but the Sobek kind of serves you up on a silver platter pretty easily. Yes, you can put down the cripple field around you if you think he's going to pluck you, but you can often just wait out that field and then pluck you anyways. Little surprised to see Ardio this highly prioritized.
It might also be just dealing with that Scylla. You don't want to be able to use that Sentinel to get out of these sticky situations. I think Ardio is certainly a god that is getting a lot more value in Season 8 because of the out-of-combat healing nerf. Ardio always in combat when she's able to heal her team, so it's going to find value regardless inside of these team fights. I like this pick a lot in Season 8. Agni getting picked up here to round out this draft is an interesting decision. They do have a lot of ranged engage, accounting department that is, be it a root from a range from Ardio, which can immediately be followed up by the Rainfire from Agni. There are tools that they can use, but so far, we're lacking a consistent front line for accounting department, whereas Snake Hunters, they got a pretty good front line between Sobek and Cthulhu.
Plenty of beef in front of this Scylla right now. You don't got to worry about that space at all. And if you're in the mid lane there, you're going to be feeling pretty good about it. As On Her is the pick coming in now for Vaporish Coast. Definitely starting to see a lot more On Her these days. And I love it up against a pick like Set, like Ardio, gods that can get on top of you and cause problems. On her has two ways to get away from these gods, the Impale to get them off him, or the Disperse to get him off them and try and get away that way. So I like this On her pick for Coast quite a bit.
And he's also got the potential to lock down enemies from a range. Cthulhu finds a knockup. That guarantees at least 4 spears from On Her's ultimate. There's so much damage potential here, as well as chase potential for Snake Hunters. Tsukiyomi can find the slow. Sobek can engage the fight with the pluck. It's a very hard to deal with 5-man team fight that Snake Hunters have brought for themselves here, whereas Accounting Department, their draft is going to require a little bit more execution on the field. It's really going to come down to how well is Agni able to close the gap to find targets like Scylla or like Tsukiyomi with his ultimate. How well is Set going to be able to dive this Scylla, especially dealing with this brawny front line in Sobek and Cthulhu? I think Snake Hunters might have come away with a slightly better draft here.
A lot of CC for the Snake Hunters draft, and usually those are the types of compositions that I favor going into this. But Mifflin, in factoring in the teams and the rosters, who do you think takes it?
Well, I mean, you kind of blew up my spot here, Agronov. I'm talking about how Snake Hunters draft is so good. I think Accounting Department's going to win, and I'm not going to regret that vote, I think.
Okay, all right. You know, Coast, like, you're contractually obligated to gas him at all times because he pentakilled you, right?
He's nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, that's in the fine
He owns
print.
me.
Okay, so, but Coast must get unlucky this game. That's the way it's got to go. Game 1 between the Snake Hunters and the Accounting Department getting ready to go here shortly. The Tsukiyomi pick in the jungle, that top pick, can that get onto the back line? And those ranged CC gods often can give those types of gods a little bit more trouble, Mifflin, and Agni certainly fits that bill.
Yeah, I think that Tsukiyomi's job in this game really is either he could take one of two approaches in my mind. He can act as this anti-Set, just kind of make sure wherever Set is going, he's going to follow. If he's trying to dive my Scylla, Tsukiyomi can stay there and use that disarm and that stun to make sure that Scylla's able to survive that initial burst potential from Set. Or he could try and match that pressure that Set's able to provide his team and try and dive in towards the Agni or even towards the Apollo, and has a very good matchup there. The Mez could deal with the Kusarigama ever so slightly, but if that's ever down, Apollo's essentially a sitting duck. I'm going to be very interested to see how both of these junglers decide to play this match.
I'm excited to see what Streamline's going to be able to do on this Wukong as well. Seemed like it was pretty good earlier in the second set of the day. I think we might see a reprise of that. Game 1, Snake Hunters up against the Accounting Department. Let's get it down to the casters to kick it off.
It was our third and final set of the day. It is Dolson and Gormizer on the call. Doug, as always, will be working the camera for us. And if Accounting Department are going to lose, if they could wait until after April 15th when they pay me, that'd be sweet. And we'll see if they can hold on here in our third set of the day. Gore, I want to jump right into this jungle conversation because we wondered where this set was, right, all day. When is somebody finally going to pick Set? And it's Ice here in our, what is now 6th game of the day, that finally makes the pick.
And that accountant department jokes are really writing their checks for you, huh? Either way, yeah, no, Set has been
No!
so, I want to say talked about. I mean, he has been on the list. Like, I mean, when we have balance meetings, Set typically comes up in some conversations about whether or not, where the frustration points is Set on there, because he's somebody that has been very highly picked on a lot of ranked games. He's banned almost every single time you get into upper ranked games as well. He's just a nuisance to deal with, and we saw him again last year have such a big, prominent performance up front, kind of slowly snuck his way into the meta, and then just cemented his claws down into the ground. And then he just wasn't there for all of today until now. I think this is going to be good for Ice. Him and Wolfie are going to be a very difficult duo to deal with here in the early game. But I think this is perfect when you have something like a Scylla, when you have the Tsukiyomi. They can fight at range. They're not trying to out-push you. They're just trying to sustain, I think, at this point. Let Agni do his thing. Let Set do their thing. And hope that they don't take too much away from your jungle.
I'm intrigued to see what Wolfie's able to do here, not only as a player at the SCC level. I mean, remember, with Obey, it always seemed like a lot of that early lead that Obey was able to build up was through Wolfie out of the mid lane, and then, maybe some mid-game shot calling issues. That's neither here nor there, but Wolfie has the potential to get off to great starts here in these games, and he's going to try to do it on a less than conventional pick here in the Agni. I mean, there's plenty of ranged burst and some lockdown here. Okeanos quite low there. Vapor's Coast won't finish off the kill. But this mid lane battle, Gore, it's the idea of big circly damage that's going to be bursting down your team. I'll hold that thought as double stun connects onto Vapor's Coast and Shoxy Foxy, but no kills just yet.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what Wolfie can do. And this is it's like a case study I want to do, right? I want to go look at Obey and try to figure out how things went wrong, because every one of those players, to an extent or another, has had success sometime in their career, and maybe there's some problems, right, that you can go and isolate and very easily find. But Wolfie, as well as I think Ducky, I just saw that the Valkyries video had dropped since we're on the team. Like, those two have been in that conversation of, they're not really bad. In fact, Wolfie would literally, his Raw made Raw staple. I think he brought him back into the meta because of how well he performed.
Watch out. Rapio on his way over here to the left-hand side of the map. Kalas, no mana, no health, and he's going the wrong direction. It's just a matter of who, and it's Vaporish Coast on the board first with the first blood. You thought there might be a moment of engagement there. Okeanos wasn't really even all that close either. And the positioning now for Rapio is the purple buff's going to get invaded, but Ice is here as well. Let's see what Set can do over in the duo lane. That's become a trio lane here as of late. The pluck on backwards might slow down any further aggression, but instead it's a slide on in from Okeanos. This is a 3 versus 2, but Snake Hunters didn't want any part of it.
I mean, I like the way they play that, right? You get your carries out of there, you make sure you peel. Shoxy Foxy finds a great pluck for that peel to work off, and Ice can't do anything about it, right? Like, he's now stuck, falling too far behind, and now they can re-engage.
Big old blink pluck there from Shoxy Foxy. The ultimate from Rapio as well that'll lock down the kill, and now Ice is in a bad spot. 4 minutes in, 3 kills on the board. Gore, you and I rounded out the last desk with talking about how EU has been foot on the pedal all the way to the ground all day today. And 3 kills in nearly as many minutes is certainly proving that point here. This Snake Hunters team is out of the gates hot.
And not just that, but they played so perfectly around experience and levels right there. I mean, you're in that engage. When that pluck happens, roll it back 2 fights ago, and that's when everybody's still level 4. Nobody has their ult for a disengage. Nobody wants to re-engage. They go drop that purple buff as a trio, and then turn around knowing that, hey, Rapio's about to be able to turn an ult on this guy. We're going to be able to go in, and then just as you get that first kill, guess who gets his ult? It's Coast, right? And they're able to go forward. That is really good play around the experience and knowing your levels going into a fight. Now, you've got about a half-level lead over your opponents in that lane. You can let them sit for a while. I want to see the Tsukuyomi maybe come to mid, try to cement Gunter a little bit better in his mid role, or maybe even swing over here. I mean, we're not necessarily known for seeing Cthulhu, I want to say, dominate his lane. Like, he does pretty okay in lane. He'll go toe-to-toe with you and be just fine. He'll even damage you and almost kill you some of the times. But you're really looking for him in the late game. I think right now, focus on getting the Scylla ahead.
Whoa, the lockdown from Ice sets up a great kill there for himself. The collapse in from Ice is the icing on the cake. Gunter barely limps away from this fight. I don't think anyone expected that. Rapio sure didn't. Deathwalker rotates over from solo. Bluestone, nearly enough damage. The fade away from Ice, though, in accounting department, Gore. Suddenly this gold lead is right back to even.
I mean, keeping things action-packed, right? Making sure that they're still going in. I love that because it showcases exactly what you want Agni for more than anything, which is his setup, right? I mean, we always talk about it. I think people will mention Agni is always described as like this pinnacle of balance. He's got really good cooldowns, but they're not too short. He's got really good control, but not too crazy. He's got good damage, but it's not out of control. Like, everything he has fits exactly where you want it to. But still, he's not really picked up as often as some of these other mages. I mean, even today we've seen Scylla and Yanis more contested than we've seen this Agni. And it's just because when he comes through, you're playing kind of through him. He's going to set up, he's going to facilitate, and he might not be that hyper carry that we've seen out of things like the Scylla on the other side. But Wolfie plays perfectly here with Ice to be that setup player. It's the same reason his Ra was really good. Ra can put out way more damage, but he still brings that sustain that he used to have last year. So I think Wolfie is playing Wolfie's style, and that's exactly what you want out of a team like this. They know who they are, and they know that that can drive them to victory. They aren't sweating the fact that they lost 3 kills earlier. They're just focused on the here, the now, and where they can go.
All right, throughout the onset of this game, both junglers really, Gore, have mirrored each other's pressure relatively well. Rapio has done a good job finding some engagements over on the left side of the map, and then Ice seeing where he could maybe put some pressure. Really found his home there in the mid lane, combining well with Wolfie. And this is exactly what we talked about when the game started, isn't it? How Wolfie, upon receipt of a little bit of jungle pressure early in the game, can capitalize and get off to a bit of a lead there out of the mid lane. So while it's still so early on in this game, still effectively even, this is getting right back into that area that we talked about with Obey a lot last year, where Wolfie's going to be in a great spot with all that control, all that balance that you talked about, Gore, in helping this accounting department team kind of power curve their way into the mid game. In the meantime, though, it's another invade on the purple buff from the Snake Hunters here. Could this just be a good old 1v1? Vaporish Coast gets it done all on his own. On her. Does a good bit of damage, by the way, and that's a free solo kill for the Snake Hunters here. A little more action, though, in the mid.
I mean, Shoxy Foxy looks like he's going to be able to walk away from this one, so you get exactly what you want, right? The 1v1, you're now 2 levels up, 3-0 for Coast. Like, look, there's a lot of good names and a lot of historied names here for Snake Hunters that have gone on throughout the past, but Coast is the one that I think has been most prominent, right, throughout all of it. He was able to get that pentakill. As Aggro kindly pointed out on the desk, it was against Mifflin.
Against
that
Mifflin,
got that
right.
pentakill, so, you know, just to make sure to rub a little extra salt in that wound. It's still here that, you know, you're seeing him come through, and admittedly, over the last couple of years, we've seen him have that level of performance, right, where you're watching him, you're just like, man, this guy is really solid. And then we've also seen him have some poor performances where we've been like, man, anything else you could have done that game, like just literally anything could have enhanced it. So it's nice to see he's being a little more, well, front forward with this one. At least today he's showed up and is finding that 3-0. This 2-level lead should be big for him over there. The carries are important this season.
They absolutely are. I mean, he is so far ahead of Okeanos right now. 3-0-1 on the honor. He's Vaporish Coast has had his Devourer's Gauntlet built and stacking for the last few minutes. Okeanos had to go into the Ninja Tabi, hasn't finished off his Devourer's Gauntlet here just as of yet. The left side of the map, Gore, we've talked about kind of no play zones, where in one of our earlier sets, the solo lane really spiraled out of control. It seems like trying to make anything happen over here against Vaporish Coast, barring your entire team and him being alone, is just not worth it maybe for the accounting department. You almost have to let this Apollo rotate into the fights, and that's how he makes his impact when Vaporish Coast can't.
Shoxy Foxy's the one, I think. At this point, especially with the way the first 2 sets went, I keep going back to what are the front lines going to do, right? Where's Collis going to be? This Artio is definitely going to have a very interesting matchup versus something like a Sobek. Artio is not someone we get to see often over here, and honestly, I think, PBM, Aurora, like they're the only 2 people I can think of realistically that have been playing her over there and found success with her, but most of the time she's more solo lane Guardian oriented than what we normally see. The healing will be nice, again, in combat healing that can be solid, but I do feel like Hollis is definitely going to be feeling the lag a little bit compared to what Sobek is going to have. Much more impactful here for Shoxy Foxy. I think it gives him control around these Scorpions, both in the Gold Fury pit and the Fire Giant pit. And then it'll give him a lot of control. I mean, we saw the peel earlier. If you already have that state of mind in your brain, then you have no issues setting up for Vaporish Coast. One misstep, and Shoxy Foxy's going to make sure that you suffer for it.
Well, it's not the Fury just yet. It's the Greater Scorpion that the Snake Hunters are looking at right now, and they will lock themselves, or lock down for themselves, excuse me. That being said, Gore, I mean, with the big swings that have happened on the left side of the map, I mean, the graphs do tell a pretty decent story here. We're hanging right around this 500 gold lead. Nothing's really all that far apart. The XP lead was actually in favor of the accounting department, and the only thing that's kept it from spiraling out of control is the fact that Vaporish Coast is 2 levels up over Okeanos. So accounting department are very much in this game in about every aspect outside of that hunter role. So that's when the question starts to rise. How do you get this Apollo involved in this game in a safe enough manner? I mean, he hasn't even been able to go Devourer's Gauntlet, had to go Bloodforged. What do the next few minutes maybe look like for Okeanos?
Oh, you say, it's kind of weird, you say, like, he hasn't even been able to go for the Devourer's Gauntlet. I would honestly say he opted for this Bloodforge.
Right.
Like, it's really weird because it's such an interesting dynamic when we talk about these, but Bloodforge has always been seen as maybe the more power spiky, right? It's more forward heavy, and I am going to frag out. Like, I am not here to play around. I'm not messing with your sustain. I want a shield when I kill you, and I want damage on point. And so he's gone for this early power spike. So when I say, how do you get him into this game, I think you look at that blue diamond over there on the right side of your screen, and you just hope he starts ulting into some of these fights. With the setup from the Agni, with Ice doing what he's doing, getting Okeanos into these fights a little more regularly, even though it'll be difficult to do because how long the timer on that ult recharge is, it still is going to help him catch up. I mean, he's only, 12 to 13, maybe 1.5 levels down now, so it's not as drastic as it was, which is such a showcase. He's 0-2-0, and he's just barely behind what we're seeing out of 3-0-1 for Vaporish Ghost. This fight around the Fury is probably going to be the biggest thing. Any picks that happen on this left side of the map will be huge if they go in favor of Accounting Department, or it'll be a setup for Snake Eyes.
Collis is the one locked down and eating all of this damage, but all of this damage is only turned into about half of that Ardio's health bar. You're still taking a fight here if you're the Accounting Department on the side of the map that Vaporish Coast is able to rotate your way into. Obviously, Gold Fury is going to be sort of this early game objective. So no surprise that this is where all the fighting is occurring. Snake Hunters feeling confident that their Hunter is enough of a power spike for their team to take this fight. Gold Fury down to half HP. This is going to be a full 5-on-5 engagement. Okeanos still farming down the left side of the map. The Gold Fury's dropped, and instead it's an engage on the back line. Collis, another engage onto the Ardio. This time, though, the health bar a little bit lower. Desert Fury, pluck, stun, it's all there, but you have not killed the support just yet. Kha'Zix gives up the chase. In the meantime, in the back line, the Accounting Department hasn't been able to get much else done. Rapio, big ultimate. Gunter's there for some damage as well. But now Wolfie's rotated, and the Aegis will save his life for just a little bit longer. Kha'Zix looking for the root down, and it seems like it's only a matter of time, but look at the stun on down and the dash, and Wolfie, for the time being, will stay alive, but there's just too much health, too much damage, and the Snake Hunters win a big fight.
There were two avenues there. Deathwalker could have run in, potentially gotten a kill, probably just died in the process, and as we saw, Wolfie was only able to prolong what he had. If, Collis is able to survive there, I guess if he's able to turn around, be more impactful there from what we've seen out of Frontlines, that could have been big. But I'm a little timid if I'm Accounting Department. Not only did that fight spiral out of control incredibly fast for them, and like mispositioning's a really weird path into the engagement. I mean, you saw Collis was engaged on, and like you said, half health before anybody on his team was really ready to back him up, and then they get into position. By the time they're in position, well, now he's almost dead and having to run away. You don't get the fight that you want out of that because of some weird positioning and decisions on that side of the jungle. And they didn't have those enhanced buffs around their belt just yet. Just now, the red buff has been picked up there for Gunter as well as for Vaporish Ghost, getting those enhanced buffs that they got from the Scorpion earlier. So now they're just better than they were by merit at what they're going to want to do. Yes, there's still the red buff available. Now that Scorpion has spawned on the side of Accounting Department to give them the same capabilities. But you have to factor that into the account that with Scylla, she's going to be dealing damage. Level 14, Crush is maxed out, so she's getting that bonus damage from her passive, and you know that it's going to be more difficult to set her up. Sickham's going to be a high enough level that she's in that feasible 1-2 shot for you.
Right, and Rada Tahuti, popular starter item for a while there for mid laners, still very much in high viability as far as first items go, so going to be plenty of burst damage there for this Scylla. Another dance around the Gold Fury begins. All 10 ultimates ready to go. A couple Aegises down, though, for the Accounting Department. That's the big thing to look at there. No relics, though, for Vaporish Coast. Shell opted for it instead of Aegis. Neither of them are going to be online, though, so if there's an engage onto Zonher and it's able to stick, could spell doom for the Snake Hunters here in this fight. But both teams playing it slowly. We're going to split the Oracle score and still just play this dance slowly.
And I really like this Okeanos right in the area and doing something we saw Vote do, going for that Blood Forge. Now it's going to be an interesting fight. Ice has to walk away, does beats out on that pluck. Collis half HP, we've seen this story before, but it's not going to slow down the Accounting Department. Here comes the Chaos side. Rapio has to ult away from the backline. Okeanos is dunked down as well. Accounting Department have sold out to kill the Tsukiyomi, but Tsukiyomi takes one with them. It's a 4v4 fight on the back end. Half HP for effectively everyone from the Snake Hunters, but Vaporish Ghost is still here, and he's got the health to chase this fight down. Ice has to Aegis. This time there's the root from Kha'Zix, and the Snake Hunters will grab the kill that tilts the scales. Honestly, they're still healthy enough. This should be a Gold Fury. I mean, you're either going to force Deathwalker to come back into this fight, or you're going to kill him, right? I mean, either way, you're going to be able to walk away with this. It's going to be a little awkward, though. Okeanos got here a lot quicker than I was going to give him credit for. This might turn into something devastating. Whoa, Shoxy, oh no, he nearly played with his own life there. Okeanos feeds off to the side. Yeah, Deathwalker, I think that's the right play there, my friend. You cannot walk in and try to save your Hunter nearly a duel chance. That's a 3-1 and now 6
Vaporish Coast on this on her, but Gore, this Gold Fury delayed yet again. And this gold lead, I feel like has not moved the needle really at all. The needle hasn't been moving all that much. Even after these fights, it's been a 3-for-1, a 1-for-2 here. Small spike there, 900 gold lead from what was about 500 just a few minutes before that. So we do see the biggest gold lead of the game so far. But given sort of the vibe of this game, you'd expect it to be a little bit wider. Maybe this Gold Fury here, with the counting department having to rotate in late, is going to be the big difference maker. I'm a monster there to seal it up. And now the Snake Hunters are able to expand that gap.
I'm going to be honest, I forgot how large the Gold Fury pit was until that third person comes through. Collis is going to be dead here. And this is a testament. Now when you look at that gold, that's where the difference was, right? Accounting department's wins in those fights wasn't in the fight themselves, right? They lost the fights handily, but they stopped the Gold Fury each time. That's the final straw, though. They didn't break it that last time, and now things feel like they could start spiraling out of control. It's 11-4. You've got this big rotation on the right. That Scorpion is still there, so Fire Giant's not available, but Cthulhu doesn't care. He wants to fight.
All right, Cthulhu, let's see what you can do here as he runs down Ice. This is kind of a 2v1, but the rest of Snake Hunters here as well. Obviously no Fire Giant just yet. Wolfie stunned and evaporates under the damage that the rest of the Snake Hunters bring to the table. That's just a good old-fashioned rotation. And then space creation there from Kha'Zix. Big ultimate from that Cthulhu. Really buys a lot of space and a lot of time for the Snake Hunters to move in, lock down that Greater Scorpion. Now Fire Giant will be springing forth here in just a little bit. And you know, you look at the Snake Hunters team, they are far and away ahead of this game now. Accounting department, though, is sort of just their namesake, that the names on this roster, you figured this would be a very close-knit shot collie type team. You still got to play so well here, I think, if you're the Snake Hunters. You got to make the right calls. You got to rotate your team properly, because this accounting department team is absolutely capable of coming back in a game like this.
Yeah, it's not something that you can mess around with. You're not going to play around. You're not going to, again, play with your food, I guess, is the best analogy I could come up with for it. You want to make sure that you are putting them in the dirt. You do not want to risk anything if you can. You want to make sure it stays under your control. And that's where, again, these Scorpions start to come into the conversation, right? There's one right now spawned on the side of accounting department, one going to be spawning over there a little soon, that Greater Scorpion just taken away from that Fire Giant pit. But getting these enhanced buffs is just such a nice boon to what you have. And all 4 of the buffs on the side of Snake Hunters is going to be enhanced here. With Pyromancer on board, that is one pick that then turns into another small chunk of gold that will further their lead, right? It's always just chipping away at what accounting department don't have, I guess, at this point. If they get the Pyromancer on accounting department, we're back in an even state and we're not too stressed about it. But if they lose that, it could be another spiral that goes downward, again, out of their control. And you can see with Snake Hunter's positioning, they want to be over here. Okeanos, this is the time to pull a Netrioid, as I like to call it last year. Go over there, split push, get that tier 2, then ult on over for the fight. But be there for the team fight and try to get as much as you can on that left side of the map.
Okeanos is doing none of the above, at least as far as pushing down that tier 2 tower. Everyone from Snake Hunters over on the right-hand side. So you're right, Gore. I think maybe an opportunity for this Apollo
to
make his presence felt. At this point, though, the fight is starting to break out under the mid tower. Okeanos might have to make his way back to mid, see if his team needs his help in defending this tier 1 tower. Ice over the wall on the right. Plugs down some good damage on the Kha'Zix. This tower melting quickly. Either need to defend now or not at all. 3-man stun from Collis. But that health bar is going bye-bye real quick. Kha'Zix pops the ultimate. Big Cthulhu walking down the mid lane. Ice, just the presence has forced Gunter all the way out of this fight. And you wonder if maybe that Cthulhu ultimate was enough to give the accounting department now a bit of breathing room as far as defending this tier 1 tower goes.
I mean, that's a good ult to burn. We saw that a lot last year. The 2 ways to deal with Cthulhu was either kill him before he can do anything, or get rid of his ult so it feels a little less just proactive in the middle of a team fight, a little less pressure on you to perform perfectly. Now that that's down, you have the ability to go in, but I like the way Snake Hunters are playing this. They read the room, they already back off, they get the tower that they want. Again, it's not a huge play that, oh my god, they're going to win the game off of that, but it's so small that it gives them the gold they need, and again, slowly building this lead. It's not even 2,000 gold yet, it's just under as of right now. But it's something to work off of, and if they can continue this up, it'll work well, but you have to look at that XP. I mean, you mentioned it earlier. You just watch it bouncing back and forth between the two. You can see every big fight Snake Hunters win. but something accounting department is doing. They're just farming better. They're getting more experience. They're staying on par with them. I mean, you've got a 2-level lead there for Deathwalker, and you're just slightly behind for some of these other roles where maybe it doesn't matter. Honestly, Collis is the one that I think I'm feeling the biggest difference right now. His playmaking ability is nowhere near what we're seeing out of Cozy and Shoxy Foxy, and that's what's probably hurting accounting department the most.
And Deathwalker, first to reach level 20, is going to upgrade that Bluestone as well. First to do so here in this game. That's a big power spike, honestly, now for this accounting department team. They might feel comfortable with Okeanos closing that XP gap as well. Still not there as far as the gold goes, but yeah, the Bluestone Brooch now going to be there for Deathwalker. Gore, do you think that is a big swing here in this fight that gives accounting department a bit of extra confidence?
Yeah, it's when you look at that, it's that plus 7.5% of their health, right, that comes through. It helps you deal with some of these frontliners a little bit better, so it's already going to be cozy for you. But there was a lot of conversation when we were looking at these starter items pretty much throughout this year as casters, and we've been talking about it. It's been that conversation of who gets there first and who upgrades theirs first is maybe going to be the one that starts to run away with the rest of the game. It's not necessarily the win button for you, but it's definitely a big power spike, like you said, in your favor. Level 20 just upgraded there for Ice. This Oni Fury is important.
Oni Fury started up by Snake Hunters, down to half HP. Shoxy, now it's the other support whose health bar is about halfway gone, and Lurking in the Water is used as well. The only ultimate that gets used. Okeanos has to use the beads, though. That's important to look at. This Apollo less safe in the team fight. But that's a good heat check there, Gore. This accounting department team are here to fight, and they're here to play around these objectives. There's a ward here from the Snake Hunters that spotted out accounting department, who now are on the Oni Fury for themselves, half HP back onto the objective, but it's pulled away from. These are tense moments and could be the biggest swing in the game, depending on the way the next fight goes.
And another testament to their skill. I mean, look at this. It's less than 1,000 gold now in their lead. It was 1,500, almost 2,000 just a couple of minutes ago. The experience means nothing at this point. And Snake Hunters, if they don't get this, then it honestly might be demise for them.
Oni taken down by the Snake Hunters this time, but the fight afterwards very much up in the air. Gunter looked at by Collis and Ice, but the still is able to escape on the back line. But here comes the chase from the set. Aegis eats so much of that Desert Fury damage, nearly nothing there from Vaporish Coast, and now Okeanos is dunked into the back line. Accounting department, they've bided their time. They found a fight. The Fury goes to Snake Hunters, but the 2 kills afterwards over to the accounting department.
Now looking at this, yeah, it's another kill. That's 3 on board. Fire Giant spawned up. Yeah, I don't care about these towers. I'm going for the big boy over there in the pit. Want to get that buff around our belts. 25 minutes into this, you're not going to have the enhanced Fire Giant, but you're going to have enough to help you knock down 3 tier 2 towers pretty easily. Potentially even a Phoenix over there in less, since that tower is low already. So this is a very big swing for them. And again, that gold lead has been the conversation point. You can see it take a pretty strict dive straight down there at the very end. And that experience has been so steadily going. Now at this point you have pretty much everyone level 20, save for Collis, who admittedly only needs 2 more levels till he can upgrade his starter item as well. But that's 1, 2, 3 upgraded starters, plus 1 coming up here soon for Wolfie. Maybe gonna back after they get a little more gold. Either way, this is exactly what you want out of this team. And now Okeanos, who was 0-2-0 a little bit earlier, 2-4-2, still not necessarily swinging as hard as you would like in terms of the KDA, but he's got the damage on his side. He's got exactly what you need from your carry at this point in the game. And that is somebody who can kill towers quickly, and I can't think of somebody who does it really better than Apollo with his passive. So this is going to be a really, really good synergistic style for accounting department. Just depends on how they engage in the next couple of fights. They've got the lead, they've got control. It's all about choosing their battles appropriately.
Gore, I just got to think about how mitigated both backliners for the Snake Hunters were in that last fight. Gunter just did not have a chance to play. And you look at the player damage charts, a near world of difference. Gunter is towards the bottom at about 4.7k, all the way at the top at about 14k. That's a 10k difference,
10,000.
give or take, in the mid lane. And that is just, it is a free casting Agni versus a Scylla in the previous fight that didn't get a chance to do all that much of anything. Then there's a 13k damage on her as well, but the gap between the on her and the Apollo is much less. Gunter has just not had the space to operate, I don't think, that Wolfie has had.
Yeah, that's a really big portion of this, and this is what Ice wants, right? I mean, Wolfie is just playing setup machine. He's getting a lot of damage, got nice big AoE, so those numbers are going to go up higher than what you would expect, but a lot of what I just said also applies to Scylla. Nice big AoE, lots of damage on it. Like, that's Scylla to a T, at least on Crush and her ult. But the difference is that Wolfie is using that as setup, and if he can stun, even just for a second, either to force the beads or to allow Ice the gap that he needs, the speed that he needs to get to somebody, then that's going to isolate the Scylla and knock her out of contention. The same thing for Coast, where, you know, he's 4-2-7, but it hasn't really been doing too much for them in these fights. A lot of that was cool 1v1s, maybe some 3v3s, 2-on-2s, but he hasn't really been as big in these 5v5s, and if they can't do something to stop Ice, then that's going to continue keeping the Scylla out of this fight. I mean, 2-2-2 is not a bad slash line, but like you said, when you have less than 5,000 damage, maybe now having crested 5,000 damage, that's not a lot to work with.
Right. The script has been flipped here, Gore. I mean, Snake Hunters had the lead, but it was kind of a middling 1.5k gold lead. That has been blown out of the water by the accounting department here. Numbers in their favor to those who write my checks here on a bi-monthly basis. 28 minutes in, accounting department in a perfect spot to start to work down these Phoenixes. No towers left standing. It's really an ideal scenario, especially now we can really start to see some of that split push ability maybe, Gore, from this Apollo. The idea that you can whittle down a lane, even just pushing up minions to put pressure on one side and then ult over to the rest of your team, might make some of these Phoenix sieges just a little bit easier.
I mean, they've got such a massive gold lead here, and you can see, look at Snake Hunters. They're not leaving anywhere further than where the speed buff line is, right? They are very timid about it, but look at the ward coverage. I mean, accounting department, if you step in that left side of the jungle, they're gonna know, and they will know instantly. Anywhere that you step on that side of the map, they're going to be able to find control. And so they have just this leisurely pace right now about them. I mean, they have a Greater Scorpion over there on the right side if they want it. There's a Primal Fury going up. Looks like that's going to be pretty free. Fire Giant's going to be wearing off in 2 seconds, so the power play has now disappeared for them. But that doesn't necessarily mean much, because now we're going to look at, again, 1 minute from now, a pretty big, and again, if they're not going to get aggressive, easy Fire Giant fight on the side of accounting department. They're just going to be able to roll in, scoop it up, run back down, and find themselves a Phoenix pretty easily after one fight.
And it's well timed on that Primal Fury as well. That'll make locking the objective in for your own team just a little bit easier here. Vaporish Coast Gore, I mean, what was he, 3-0-1 I think out of lane, so he's added plenty of assists in these last few fights. Only 1 kill though. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a decline from this on her. I think Vaporish Coast has absolutely been a part of these fights. But it hasn't been this knockdown, drag-out performance that we saw earlier in the game, and maybe that's more on accounting department and the ability of their front lines to buy extra space. But you know, kind of going back, Scylla on her, they haven't really seen him in these last couple of fights.
It's actually interesting because, you know, earlier you were talking about the fact that, you know, Obey, specifically for Wolfie, one of the biggest things they had last year was getting this early lead for the first 15 minutes and then absolutely blowing it. So it's kind of interesting to see that it's on the opposite side, right? Vaporish Coast has such a very, very prominent lead, maybe not necessarily there in the gold, but something that you could feasibly build upon. And then it all seems to slip away here. Wolfie finding himself on the other side of that this time around. So it's very solid for him so far, at least this year. In Season 8, treating him well. This Agni has been, like you said, essential to it. He's gone up about 500 plus damage since we last checked in for his player damage. This is a really good area for Agni to fight in, and so solidly set up for his team too. I mean, it's just nice and easy to get a Noxious Fumes right under their feet, a good bomb onto the tops of their heads to deal the damage, but also get those stuns. Flame Wave at this point is going to be able to cover a lot of ground, so unless Cozy can do something big, this might be Wolfie's territory.
Well, that's exactly what Snake Hunters need, and it's Cozy immediately getting onto this Agni, and look at the way the health bars are going down. Not only Colossus, but Cozy's as well. There's so much damage pouring in from Okeanos. Wolfie dashes in as well. It's a triple knockup, but now the Cthulhu ultimate times out. A shell is used by Shoxi as well. Deathwalker lurking over to the left and now lurking in the water is Shoxi, who makes his way out of the FG pit. The accounting department have used no ultimates. Snake Hunters have used a shell and a couple of their ults, and a blink from Deathwalker down as well. That's a winning fight in all facets from the accounting department.
Right now they're cashing the checks that Snake Hunters just shouldn't be writing, right? They're going for these fights on Snake Hunters that, Yes, you need to. You have to, or else you're not going to be able to stop them, but you're not getting anything out of it. In fact, you're burning more than what you're getting out of it. I see one relic that was used, the blink on the side of accounting department. Not a single ult on their side was used. Maybe Wolfie dropped a couple, but that doesn't count, right? Nothing big was dropped on their side, whereas you had to use Lurking in the Waters. You used the Cthulhu ult all to disengage, and even now, you're timid. You can't even go back in to try and contest this. The Fire Giant, you might stall it, but you might die trying if you go in too far.
Well, talk about lack of space creation. You're really going to have it here if you're the Snake Hunters. Your two most important ultimates as far as being able to get in and force the enemy team back are now down. So it's kind of a point made concrete here as Cozy's going to take a little bit of damage. Accounting department not looking towards the FG. Okeanos back on the blue buff, still just poking down some damage. Cozy shrugging off a good bit of Wolfie's damage here so far. Deathwalker back behind Vaporish Coast. Coast has both of his actives here if need be, but half of his HP on one rotation later from Deathwalker. Desert Fury as well, but this time it's a Somersault Cloud to get him up and over. Ice dueling with Rapio. It's an Aegis to mitigate so much of that damage. Deathwalker does end up 1v1ing a backliner, but it's the mid laner now. Okeanos is here as well. Snake Hunters are crumbling, and the accounting department have bought their time well. Shoxy will get chased down. No Lurking in the Waters for you, and it's going to be a 4 for none for the accounting department.
And being able to run this down, you get Deathwalker, who just doesn't have teleport at all, so not going to be able to get back in here. Might have to use his Blink Bird form. It's a pretty good way to traverse the map, though. He should be able to catch up before they get into the Titan room. But it's Coast for 30-plus seconds on his own versus 5. This is one of the most good luck moments. I could try to offer you anything in the world. The Titan's going to have to do a lot of work. Your Pillar's going to have to be on point, and your Desert Fury's going to have to get a lot done to make this work out.
That's right, Desert Fury is still there. Wasn't used in the previous fight. Vaporish Coast, though, deleted. Accounting department, they climbed the hill of a 1.5k gold deficit early on in the game. Turn this one around. Gore, they have less kills than Snake Hunters by the end of this game, but they got more golds and more Titan kills, I suppose. Game 1 over to accounting department.
And the kills they got, like you said, even though it was less, they were more important kills by the end of the game, right? You're looking at a lot of those early game kills rolling in for Snake Hunters, not doing a whole lot. I mean, you're not getting a lot of pressure. Towers weren't falling. You weren't putting pressure on a Gold Fury that you got. They tried several times, but accounting department did just enough to stop them each time. And that was maybe the biggest win. Again, they lost those fights, but they won in a way because they stopped that Gold Fury. If that gold starts to get out of hand early on for Snake Hunters there, maybe it does start to slip through their fingers and accounting department don't fight back that way. But because of what they did early on, it pays dividends as time keeps going forward. They are able to start capitalizing on the things they needed. They get the Gold Fury. They are able to go in and get the Oni Fury. They get the first Fire Giant and the second Fire Giant. The Pyromancers that go their way. They took control of the map after that point, and it just really hurt the Snake Hunters.
Yeah, Gore, this game ended up being sort of a pace between EU SCC of old and what we saw earlier today, kind of somewhere in that middle ground. I think patience was the name of the game there for the accounting department. Brush off some of the damage from earlier on in that game. Bide your time in these fights. Let the enemy team use their cooldowns. Ended up paying off in the long run. Accounting department, they take game number 1. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll break it down.
It was a tough early game, but accounting department somehow weathered the storm and squeak out a Game 1 victory. If it wasn't looking good for the team, though, in the early stages of the game, Vaporish Coast got 2 kills and an assist in the first, 5 minutes of the game, and from there, it looked like it should be a Snake Hunters victory, but accounting department managed to pull it out.
Man, the team fight just really fell apart. I think in particular, it was a little bit of a jungle gap in these late game team fights. Rapio wasn't quite able to find the same level of presence that who we're seeing on the screen did. Ice constantly looking for these aggressive plays. I mean, this is 5 minutes inside a tier 2 tower, by the way. Gunter goes down easily. It just felt like accounting department was doing exactly what we were worried about at the beginning of that desk. They waited until that 25, 30-ish minute mark, and then they gas pedaled, and it never stopped from there.
Really, really strong team fighting, and that's usually what you expect out of the team that has the Cthulhu, but this time around it was accounting department. Those backline dives from Okeanos ended up being very, very impactful. I feel like Gunter had his moments where he really struggled. I mean, every single clip, it's just him kind of getting gunned down in these team fights. Is a good example. That's the winning team fight right there, and it's just one after another. The dominoes fall in accounting department's favor, and they pull out the Game 1 victory. Coast still looked awfully good, though. 5-3-7 on that on her. Thought he leveraged that lead pretty well, but just couldn't match that team fight prowess of Okeanos.
Yeah, I think it's due in large part to the build as well. He was going for a much more single target build. He wanted to kill whoever was in front of him, whereas Okeanos with that oboe inside of his build was able to deal damage to literally everyone in a team fight, especially considering how grouped up Snake Hunters were taking these engagements, always playing around Cozy on this Cthulhu. Makes a very easy target for Okeanos to just sink auto attacks into and get that AoE damage rolling out for his team.
Yeah, that if you want just this game kind of wrapped up in a bow, Wolfie did 20,000 damage. Gunter did 6,000 damage. That's too big of a gap. Can't have that.
Yeah,
gotta be having more. Yeah, that's the way that one went. Hopefully Gunter can have a little bit of a better performance in game number 2 as we get prepped for those picks and bans. The Scylla, that was the top overall pick, if I remember correctly, for Snake Hunters. When you go first pick overall and then have the type of game that Gunter had, I think that's a tough position to be in as a player, because now you got to feel like your whole picks and ban strategy might need to be changed.
Especially considering what the enemy team got off of that, right? I mean, it was Scylla first overall. Let's leave up Set and Apollo for the enemy team. I don't think you're allowed to do that, especially if you're only dropping 6K.
Got to have more of an impact than that in that type of game. Wolfie was able to hold his pick until very late in the draft and certainly made it count on that Agni. Snake Hunters back in that first pick position as we're getting ready here for game number 2, and you got to change something, right? I mean, even if it was the way that it was executed and Gunter just had an off game because of the dive on the other side being very strong, even with all of those caveats, I feel like you still, especially on a rhythm character like Scylla, sometimes it's just not your day on that type of pick, and for me, I think you just got to move on.
Yeah, time to lock in something new out of the mid, but so far bans getting reprised across the board. Snake Hunter's taking out that Yanis and the Athena. Guan Yu and Yamoja on the other side. Everything's the same here, but I want to see a pivot. Let's deal with the set. Get rid of it, Snake Hunters. You might as well. Okeanos was just an absolute threat on it in game 1. You can't let it happen again.
Yeah, I think you got to make some sort of switch up, but it is the set.
Let's go.
So not the Apollo ban on Okeanos, but this time it's Ice who's going to have to go with something a little bit different in that jungle, just trying to free up some space in that backline for both Gunter and Vaporish Coast. Bans on the other side stay the exact same. So now Snake Hunters have the option of going back to the Scylla or changing it up and going with something a little bit different this time around. Tsukiyomi, Tsukiyomi was first pick last time. Now that it's locked in, it makes sense in my brain immediately. So they stick with that same first pick, but might have to see if they want to switch it up later elsewhere in the draft.
But still, so many value picks left available for accounting department. We haven't even got to talk about the Ymir today, but in Season 8, that's been really popular. If they decide to, they can go towards that, but Apollo certainly still available to get picked up. Instead, though, that set ban was an Aphrodite last time around, I think for good reason, because accounting department, go ahead and take that one first off overall, but they still got one more pick available to them in this phase, and I'd be surprised if it weren't Apollo. That global presence was so important. It's Heimdall, though, so color me surprised.
Yeah, a little bit surprised as well. I mean, Heim very, very good at protecting himself from a dive, but kind of have Aphrodite there already. Maybe trying to get a little bit more insulated on your own backline, have some self-peel. That's the other thing Heim really brings, that he peels his mage very, very well. Can ult someone like a Tsukuyomi away, force those beads or something along those lines. So maybe that's what accounting department are going for, trying to protect this Afro on the backline.
I like this pivot from Snake Hunters immediately going into the Cerberus, especially up against Aphrodite. If he elects to go for the Tainted Steel and lock this in the solo lane or something along those lines, he is going to be an absolute menace. Just so hard to deal with. The sustain that Cerberus is going to have for himself, as well as the backline disruption factor that he brings. But this is interesting. Rom getting locked in by Snake Hunters. This is a pick that's really fallen off since Season 7 being that #1 best in slot in Season 8 with the changes to foliage and the itemization changes for Hunters. It feels like Rom has fallen off a fair bit. I'll be excited to see how well he's able to perform on it.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised as well. I mean, Rom was the end-all be-all, it felt like, of ADCs last year. Certainly not the case right now, but maybe we can see Vaporesh really pop off on it. As Cabrakan comes in, this is what I love to see with Aphrodite picks. Something aggressive that's willing to go in the front line and be that initiator early on in the game. Cabrakan a lot of times can put a squishy from 100 to 30. Now you add in that extra damage coming from the Afro Kiss, that back off damage. Now you're talking about 100 to 0 with those two. And it really limits the mage pool, I think, on the other side. So I love this Cabrakan pick. I'd expect that it'd go to Kalas based on some of the highlights. We saw him playing it earlier. But you can even put this Cabrakan in the jungle or in solo if you'd like.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's a fantastic flex pick that's going to keep Snake Hunters guessing on where they want to allocate those bans. Might be why we see them throw one towards support and one towards solo. Khepri and Osiris removed in their 2 bans there, whereas accounting department would like to get rid of the Cucullin and the Merlin themselves. But Cabrakan, just isolated against the 3 that we already see for Snake Hunters, is going to get some pretty good value off that ultimate. Rom doesn't really have a great way to get out of it. Tsukuyomi is going to be pretty easy to lock in. If this Kumbhakarna gets locked in as well, he's going to have a very hard time dealing with these walls. We might see Snake Hunters be forced into picking up a Phantom.
I'm shocked to see Kumba, though, Mifflin. I mean, Kumba does not feel like he's at the same power level of gods like Cerberus and Cabrakan right now among the other Guardians that are picked up. And it also, you know, you think of Kumba when you're thinking about these gods that you really want to be able to knock out of the play space for an extended period of time. Kali, Zhongqi, gods with those channeled ultimates, things like that. I'm a little surprised to see it here. Afro can struggle a bit up against that root, but I don't know. I'm a little shocked to see it.
I think Kumbhakarna's picked here just as a deterrent for the backline dive potential of accounting department. You were talking about how gods you want to remove for an extended period of time, like Kali. Well, accounting department kind of give it to Snake Hunters by locking in this Erlang Shen. You want to get this guy out of your teammate's face almost instantly, and you've already got good engage for your team on the side of Snake Hunters from Tsukuyomi using the Piercing Moonlight to close gap into the backline on his own, or even Cerberus using the Stygian Torment. So Kumbhakarna's entire job, for my money, in the team fight phase is keeping Ram alive. It's keeping Baba Yaga alive, just making sure that they're given a little bit of space while the rest of Snake Hunters can deal their damage and pierce their way into the backline. Whereas accounting department, it's pretty clear what the strategy is, right? It's W key across the board with a pocket Aphrodite. I mean, a tale as old as time.
Yeah, and it's worked for a lot of teams in the past as well. Certainly could be the place here for accounting department. I love the Baba Yaga pick here for Gunter, but I'm just a fan of Baba right now in general. I think she feels really strong to me. How do you feel about Baba Yaga in the mid lane?
I feel like Baba Yaga is largely inconsistent. I've described her in the past as worse Scylla, and I don't think that's too unfair to say. Scylla's got more confirmable CC, her crush is a lot more consistent damage, and you still have the same level of CC immunity for being able to transform into either a house or a monster. I just think that the main issue I have with Baba Yaga is how largely inconsistent she is.
We'll see if Gunter can put together a better performance on the Baba than he did on that Scylla. Snake Hunters looking to bounce back down 1-0.
Snake Hunters had a great early game there in game number 1, but fell by the wayside as the game went on. Gore, it's going to need to be a little bit of the opposite here. Let's pick up right where the desk left off. This Baba Yaga is going to need some time to really get there in the damage department. So Snake Hunters, you hope you get off to this great start again, but you got to be able to batten down the hatches, I suppose, as the game goes on. Get this Baba Yaga in a place where she can succeed.
Yeah, and honestly, getting there is going to be an interesting path to go forward with. I don't see Coast necessarily being the end-all be-all early game carry for them to get them there, mainly because what we saw, and this happens I think a lot with Rom, once those trees came through, you're lucky enough to not have to see them so heavily here on the spectator map, but your perspective still as a player, even though it's been cleared up I believe a little bit for when you're up in the air, you still have to try and make some guesswork of those shots. You need a lot of communication to make this ult work, and so it's interesting to see this one picked up. Same thing with the Kumba. I love him, but when I'm playing Kumba, I'm playing him in Arena. I'm not picking him up in my Conquest games that often. Maybe once every now and then when I really do just stop maybe caring as much, right? I'll be queuing with friends when I do that one, I promise. But it's interesting because he doesn't do a whole lot here at level 2.
No, I mean, look, he walked in, mezzed and rooted, and the only thing that happened is he lost half of his HP. Gunter gets stunned down there. Wolfie and Ice Ice won't engage any further, so Kumba's going to walk away. It is such an interesting pick here, Gore. There is plenty of lockdown there, but finding that all-important target to lockdown, root, mez, all that sort of fun stuff, going to be tough here for Shoxy. Kind of losing trades all over the map right now. Wolfie and Ice Ice finding engagements over in the mid. Rapio, half HP, is going to have to work back towards his back camps, a little bit behind in the HP department. That means Ice Ice is there on the chase, but Vaporish Coast gets stunned down over here again. Gore, we're seeing a lot more skirmishing. Not even just so much in this game, but maybe in this meta in general in the early game.
And this is what Ice Ice was doing early game last time around. Granted, this one came with the added spice of maybe finding a kill, but it's come in and steal a lot of this farm from over here, right? And those are the things I think that are the most interesting. Also startled Baba Yaga's house there in the jungle, making it feel a little out of place, trying to stay around her. It's just so interesting to see this because the accounting department, while they have a team that I think is just going to continue to escalate into greatness as time goes on, and there's members, the same thing can be said for Snake Hunters, I just feel like the accounting department are actually getting the lead there.
Oh no! Just one last auto is all that accounting department needed. Gunter lucky to escape with his life there. That's not even a gank, Gore. Ice Ice and Wolfie just linked up and walked towards Gunter. Once the kettle was back on cooldown there, Gunter was in a bit of a tough spot, but through some luck maybe able to survive there. That was very close to first blood.
Well, there's some of the glory we saw while the camera was over here in duo lane that you do get out of Kumba, which is keeping Kalas at bay, right? I mean, you see that Kabrakan barreling down at you, you gotta root him, you gotta mez him, you gotta do everything in your power to stop him from getting close to you or your carry. So once that stun comes through, that's when it is the kill zone. You are officially going to be dead from that point forward. I just can't imagine Okeanos not following up Kalas if he finds a good stun like that. Later on, it'll be Ice Ice or Deathwalker being able to follow up on that. It's going to be very solid throughout this game. So Kumba playing Peel of Peel for this game. And he's got it. Once this ult comes online, I expect to see a lot more of that, and that conversation being around Shoxy Foxy being more what can he do to stop the aggression from accounting department as opposed to how can he set up these kills. That's where you're going to have Cozy come in. Cozy's the setup guy, I'm the peel guy, as Shoxy Foxy says. So I really like the dynamic they have, but again, it's just I'm just worried about the timing, man. It's just how long is this going to take to get online? How long is this going to take to be as crucial as you need? Coast is going to be able to start hitting some really good power spikes once he gets either Devo's gloves or, as we've seen a couple of players, I guess really only once do, going for that Blood Forge, something we've seen Vote do there for SSG last year, potentially going to continue doing this year as it might come forward with the Oni Warriors, but realistically it's not something a lot of hunters pick up. They almost always go for those Devo gauntlets. So if he goes for the sustain, it might be a little bit longer until we see Coast online, or he might go for that power spike. Maybe they're looking for that early game pressure over here in duo.
Is worth mentioning, rather. I think when we asked Vote about it, he gave us a largely I just had the money for it type of answer, and so I think there's absolutely merit in the stats department, Gore. But sometimes it's just...
But sometimes you just can't afford it.
Right. Whatever the accounting department can shell out to your itemization there is what you'll get.
Do they do loans?
They might do loans. That's an interesting idea. Maybe a loan system here in Smite. So pull back in from Cozy. Deathwalker's going to eat
You
about
can't
half
kill
of his
back
HP
the
for it.
Titan until you pay off that 500 gold at 10% interest. Come on.
That's right. The game
20
goes on.
minutes,
So
man.
you kill the Titan, but then you have to go back and farm the gold that you owe back. And your Titan can fall in the meantime until the enemy team pays back all their gold. We could be onto something here, Gore. It's a new game mode. I don't know, on tax day or something? It's a rotating game mode maybe? I think we're onto something. We'll have to hash this one out after the game here. It's been largely quiet in the duo lane, but not anymore. Ice, Wolfie, they're rotating on over. Shoxy, not much a chance to survive here, and Okeanos is the one who grabs the kill. That one's easy as you like. 4 against 1, and accounting department are on the board.
This is one of those weird moments. I'm not usually nitpicky about who gets the kill. I honestly, though, I think I would have preferred Ice get it. I think it's good for Okeanos as well. I just think getting Ice something substantial to get ahead on then takes away some of the chance for the Snake Hunters, specifically Rapio, to maybe solo carry, quote-unquote, this early portion of the game into the late game. Either way, shutting down either Coast or Rapio is definitely the main goal, I would argue, right now. Gunter, as we kind of highlighted, he's not someone you have to worry about too much just yet. He's going to be safe. Baba Yaga is not easy to kill, but she's also not necessarily doing too much just yet. We're going to have to keep our eyes on her damage numbers as time goes on, because right now, 451, right? It's lagging a little bit behind, but you're up against Aphrodite, right? So it's not like you're really competing against Afro for the damage. But later on, if that starts skyrocketing, I mean, like you said earlier, what, in game or set number 2, we saw it at 28,000 in a 20-minute game, 30-minute game. So it can get really high, really fast, and I think that's where Gunter is trying to be.
Yeah, it absolutely gets out of hand. But Gore, then you start to look at some of the active choice here from accounting department. It is literal polar opposites here. Snake Hunter's got 4 beads, 1 blink, and then, of course, all their vision. On the other side, it's 3 blinks and a couple of beads. This accounting department team, to all the points that we've made, don't want to let this game get to that point. And if it does get to that point, the engage is there, whether it's Ice, Deathwalker, or Callus, blinking into that back line. Gunter and Coast are going to have a difficult game here if those beads, those actives, that peel is off of cooldown. That's something worth keeping the eyes on here. Deathwalker used his blink just a moment ago. Callus is going to use his ultimate here, and what a wall. Shoxy will ult up Callus, get the Mez there as well, but the wall stands strong, and Ice gets the kill on the Kumba this time.
Look, it's the same reason people really loved Ymir at the end of last year, as Mifflin had said, but except it's on a longer cooldown, right? You just make the same wall surround them and you lock them down for
you're
good.
right.
That is twice that Shoxy Foxy has been caught. I mean, that was deja vu, right? It was a different part of the map, but it was the exact same play as before to get that same kill. And there's the balancing point that it's on the support, so who cares? But also it's on your support that is important for you in competitive play.
Right.
Falling behind early as a support is deadly, whereas falling behind late, being level 15 when everyone's level 20, you still feel it, but it's not the end-all, be-all. Being level 6 versus level 8, especially here for Callus, that means accounting department have a lot more room to play with, and I expect to see Callus being way more proactive. Blink up, ult about to come back on cooldown, or off cooldown, I should say. And that's where you start putting pressure on it. Gunter technically can get out of that if he gets his dash, but you bait that out of there, all of a sudden you've got some easy kills.
Well, here's a good 1v1 happening, but Okeanos wants nothing to do with it. So there's a heat check. Vaporish Coast maybe has the chance for a bit of a better engagement at this point. Did have to use the beads. Okeanos did use the ultimate, so that's absolutely worth looking at, especially if these two teams are going to start to meet soon here. Over on the side of the Greater Scorpion, look at Ice cycling back in behind Vaporish Coast. Will he catch out the back? It's a blink on in on the left side. Taunt is there as well. No beads for Coast. Might have to use his ultimate to survive. This is just going to give Ice time to sustain on back up, dodge out a few of these snipes. Is that enough damage? I'm not sure with Okeanos returning in. Dodge roll. Beautiful play by Vaporish Coast to stay alive.
And good ward coverage there. I wasn't watching the minimap. I was so absorbed in the team fight. I see them start running away. I'm going, no, why? It was a kill. And it's because they saw this gank coming through. They're going to try to stay safe, but Okeanos is in trouble.
Yeah, and Okeanos is going to actually be the hunter that dies here. It looked like Vaporish Coast was dead to rights, but instead Snake Hunters have now pulled one back. This is a similar territory to game number 1. We don't have as many kills on the board. No individual players far and away fed in the same way that Vaporish Coast was. But it's the slow buildup of a lead. Accounting department have themselves about 1,000 plus of a gold lead right now, and that's where game 1 hovered for a little while, Gore. And so if Snake Hunters can do a lot of the same of what accounting department did in game 1, they still have that chance to scale. You got to remember this Baba Yaga is going to come online. That's the name of the game here. Get Gunter up to a point where he can swing in these fights. So, Gore, I'm not sure Snake Hunters are sad at the state of the game here at this point, especially grabbing that kill on Okeanos.
Not at all. Only 10 minutes in. I mean, until a Gold Fury goes down, I don't think you start even thinking or entertaining the thought of losing. This is so close that nothing should be on your mind. Yes, you're slightly behind, 1,300 gold to around 1,500, depending on how many waves your team has taken at any given time. It is going to feel like a lot, and early on it is the difference between some of these tier 2s and tier 3s that these players are getting. But like you said, it's not really sweating it. You're still able to pull back, still able to maintain control. You're just one good team fight from getting things back on your side. The only issue with the Baba Yaga I have at this point really does come down to the fact that earlier, and what we've seen out of her more often than not, is she does a ton of damage, not a lot of confirm. Who's going to do the confirm? Tsukiyomi should be able to chase down those kills pretty easily.
Big engage from Cozy, but a bigger taunt from Ice delays the follow-up there. And Accounting Department are looking poised to re-engage on this fight. Shoxy taken low, and Deathwalker will pick up the kill here. Nobody from Snake Hunters there to save the life of their support. Now it's 0-3. 100% of the kills from Accounting Department fall onto Shoxy. And Gore, a lot of the concerns that the desk raised about this pick starting to come to fruition. How much more of the map, though, can Accounting Department start to take over here? Look at this. Okeanos cancels the gem, uses the beads, because the rest of the Accounting Department is starting to storm on through. Rapio pinned in. Alice gets one. Porsche Coast will fall as well, and it's Gunter left walking away from the fight. That's a big swing for the Accounting Department.
And for Okeanos, I'm pretty sure that was max range on that ult. I mean, that was at the tail end of it, but he still manages to burn the beats from Rapio, which sets up even more of that, a domino effect for his team. And I was just going to complain. I was going to say, you know what? It's kind of nice. Like, you've got 3 kills. You're up in terms of the lead. But if they're all on to Shoxy Foxy, it means almost nothing. Like, a support is going to get that gold one way or another. They're going to get those items online one way or another. And that lead is only really going to set Collis up for more. It's not going to put Shoxy Foxy behind, if that makes that much sense, right? You're going to still get tanky. You're still going to be able to do Kumba things later on in the game. So you have to start putting some pressure elsewhere. Q, immediately as I have that thought, Rapio and Coast going down. Once you kill the jungle and this carry, you're now getting a little bit of a lead, level 12 to level 11 in both of the roles there, and you're going to start setting up Ice for even more success. I mean, when you have Aphrodite, you really want to choose one person that you can lock onto and protect. And it feels like Ice is an easy target. He's 3-0-2. The taunts have been on point. He's already onto his 3rd item, almost finished there. Has a lot of attack speed to continue chasing these down. Of the lockdown I've seen out of him, Ice has been playing very, very solidly to just keep everybody in check on Snake Hunters.
Yeah, these auto-attack junglers have just been on an absolute tear here today. You know, sometimes with Nem, we had a big conversation about Nemesis last year, where the ability-based auto-attack focus was the right way to go. I mean, it seems like auto-attack junglers is kind of where it's at right now. Of course, you have the Tsukiyomi on the other side, providing plenty of ability damage, rather. But right now, it's Ice making waves, a chance to make a little bit more here. Shoxy taken low. The wall is going to separate, dash away. That's the ultimate now off of cooldown. So Shoxy has saved his life, looks like for the time being, but at the cost of his ultimate. But Accounting Department spend a couple as well. So not all that bad of a trade there, Gore, for the Snake Hunters.
Not at all. They are able to, again, like you said, pull some of those ults. Once Wolfies is down, it makes him more vulnerable. Granted, still has beads and Aegis up, so it's not necessarily the end-all be-all of killing him. Like, to the point where I would argue that's greedy positioning from Wolfie, right? When you're the one closest to Snake Hunter's side of the map, that's the kind of position you only take if you feel safe and you're pretty certain that things are going to go in your favor. The most interesting thing out of the map right now, I would argue, is that a Pyromancer was spawned and taken before a Gold Fury. There's still Scorpion sitting over in that side of the pit. I'm surprised no one's made a play for it. There's a couple of wards for Snake Hunters around that area, but nobody seems to be ready to go die on that hill just yet.
Not just yet, especially not with a large enough gap, maybe, between either of the Hunters. That's where Snake Hunters in Game 1 put some of their pressure, because Porsche Coast was so far ahead, but equal in level, somewhat equal in items there, so not a wide enough gap on the left side of the map maybe for either team to feel comfortable there. It's all about the rotation in there. 1 level lead over here in the solo lane. Not as many fireworks score in the solo lane these last couple of games that we had seen earlier on today. Deathwalker certainly had the ability to whittle down some of that damage, but Cozy just fine with some of that Cerberus healing to stay in lane.
It's all the focus around the buffs right now. I'm keeping my eyes on the map. Finally able to steal that Scorpion. You get some enhanced buffs now on your side, all 4 of them for Accounting Department. Opens up an interesting conversation to be had just because of the damage that can now come out, or maybe, I guess, the healing for Aphrodite that can come out. I'm not sure you're worried too much. The birds are still pretty deadly at that. But they've been in control of the objectives on the map. It looks like a gank is going to be coming through. Okeanos, whenever his ult is up, coming to this side of the map is not necessarily going to afford you a whole ton. When Beads and Aegis are up, same thing can be said, but that's the biggest thing about this Heimdall. He's known for his safety in lane, and so far, him backing, the biggest thing it's done is open up a Gold Fury opportunity.
That's right, Gore. This is a good call from the Snake Hunters. Okeanos had to go back to base, and the Snake Hunters immediately pounce on the Gold Fury. Kalas is close by, and Snake Hunters will take the Fury for themselves. How about the engage? Plenty of blinks for the Accounting Department to get back in on the fight. One more blink. That's Ice this time. Baba Yaga will use the ultimate. The uppercut from Shoxy will get Ice out of the fight for just a little bit longer. Look at the Baba Yaga damage out of the backline, melting through the health bars of the Accounting Department. It's going to be a Fury, a 2 for none so far. Cozy will leap away as well, and the Accounting Department left empty-handed.
But right now it's Accounting Department. They're the ones that are still running forward. They don't care that they're the ones who lost this fight. They're going to at least find one here in Shoxy. Foxy, good stun coming out there from Cozy. But is it going to be enough again to turn something around? There's a lot of low health bars, low mana there for Appio. Not a lot to engage on. But they've got Aphrodite, and that seems to be enough for the Accountants to be able to go in, try to find something. It looks like they'll finally pull back, Dave, but I mean, that's just brave, right? How often are you going to lose two at the beginning of a fight and continue chasing the other team down? The ward coverage that's coming out, I think that's a great fight from Snake Hunters. They get the gold a little more leveled out for them, but it's still almost 4,000 in favor of the Accounting Department. You have to worry about that because you just had a pretty big fight in your favor and you're still this far behind.
The Accounting Department knows a thing or two about playing with thin margins, don't they, Gore? And they work their way in there and pull one kill back on what would have been a largely losing fight. Still, you could argue was. The gold lead swings back just a little bit, but Accounting Department still far and away ahead. I find it interesting. I mean, this is pretty nitpicky, but Wolfie's a guy who on these healing-esque gods loves to go Chronos Pendant into something like a Lotus Crown. He's kind of gone in full damage so far here on this Aphrodite, and Gore, it's seeming to pay off. Top damage so far in the game by about 1.2 thousand. And so Wolfie not only is there to sustain, but has output more damage than anyone else in this game so far.
Yeah, has six assists, 006, just, you know, James Bond's lesser-known partner, I guess, that comes through. Right. Either way, very, very happy with this because, like you said, last year we were used to kind of seeing him always go into a protective item right where that spear would be to make sure that he's not going to go down. But you're Aphrodite, you already realize you're not under a lot of pressure, and there's your key. You've got your ult, you've got Aegis, you've got Beads. You're not too stressed out right now.
But is it enough? It is enough to buy some time for Ice to get in. Aegis will keep Rappio at bay. The link is there. Plenty of sustain. You can't finish off the Afro, but Cozy's there on the fadeaway shot. Rappio will Aegis as well, but Ice is there to send a spear of his own up and over the wall. Shoxy on the uppercut, there to buy some space. Double mez, but then worked on out by Cozy. Kalas finishes off the kill. Look at the Accounting Department storming through the jungle. It's a 2-for-1 kill as we stand. And Porsche Coast will be up in the sky. Double Snake Hunters off in the nether realm. Cozy, Porsche Coast come crashing back down to earth, and it's death on the other side. The health bars are low, but the kills all for the Accounting Department.
Ooh, a nice pre-beads there from Cozy. Otherwise, probably dead if that stun connects from Deathwalker. So making sure at least you stay alive in this case. Too low to do anything, though. Gunter, full health, full mana, might be able to come in and defend this. I'm actually kind of surprised. Well, maybe not too surprised. Low health bars on the side of the Accounting Department makes it difficult to convince me to go for that Fire Giant. I would have made the mistake of trying to start it and absolutely would have died to it. Now, they still have plenty of time to deal with. They might have to do a little more zoning than they would like, but a hefty gold lead, and it showcases something. Yeah, if you want to all-in Aphrodite, you're absolutely going to be able to get back there and get the kill, but you're going to have to pay for that investment, right? I mean, you're putting so much into Wolfie. The Accounting Department knows how to count those back, and they will absolutely make you pay for it, and they did that last fight.
Gore, it's our first cast of the year, and we're on point with the puns. Although I suppose with the Accounting Department, they kind of serve it up to us on a bit of a silver platter, just like this kill on the Cozy. The walls from Kalas have been on point, and that's another one that goes over. The Cerberus, 2-1-1 now. It's actually the first time Cozy has died so far this game. You wonder, Gore, Is that enough of an opening to start up the FG?
I mean, I think you can start it and keep it around half health. I don't know that you try to get into kill territory just yet. You want to kill off Shoxy, Foxy, make them just feel like fools if they try to run in for this one, because you still have, the ROM snipes to deal with.
Whoa, but the snipes are used, and the Fire Giant is half HP. Is there enough sustain here for the accounting department to get back onto the Fire Giant? The objective is reset, couple kills in tow. The accounting department trying to play this one safe. Gunter had used his ultimates there as well. Instead, let's work our way down the right-hand side of the map here. Tier 1 tower still available for crashing. Tier 2 tower there as well. Death timers, 15 seconds, so still time for this accounting department team to get back on the big objective in the FG.
They're going to be able to start this, and this time it looks pretty free. Tank's gone, makes it usually pretty easy to get to the Fire Giant, but you still always have that threat. What happens if someone decides to make like a Hail Mary, saving grace? Captain America jumping on a grenade before he's a super soldier style play, right? Like, is somebody going to do this, kill themselves for the greater good? The answer is no on this one. It's 5-man Fire Giant for accounting department. A pretty big power play at this point, too. Tier 2 towers exposed in right and mid. The Phoenix is not going to be very healthy thereafter. You might get the Zony Fury, but it's a very small dividend to pay. I mean, look at Gunter's health. Like, it takes forever to get there and get that done. You have a 5-man fight. That hasn't been going too well for you. This is just going to further the lead for accounting department in terms of gold, because there's a lot left on the map for them. If they already have a lead this large, it's just going to spike with these towers.
Well, Gunter, I mean, that's still kind of the saving grace here. Despite a 6K gold differential in favor of the accounting department, Gunter is still starting to get to that point. Look at the player damage charts right up there. I mean, it's a 900 damage, differential at most, and that's against Deathwalker. But only a couple hundred damage behind Wolfie, so you want to look towards somebody in these fights who's able to sit back, pour out damage from underneath the Phoenix line. Maybe now with Book of Thoth, Divine Ruin, hasn't finished off the artifact item yet. Maybe that's still the saving grace here, Gore. Maybe we're still approaching that territory where Gunter's going to be able to make a difference.
I mean, this is the perfect area, right? When you get to these Phoenixes, everybody's kind of siphoned into a smaller area. A lot easier for you to connect on most of your abilities. Has a pocketed potion right now in his consumables. Is prepared for a team fight. But the question is more, what can you do with those preparations, right? You've got that potion, presumably damage focused to make sure that you're able to get those kills. Maybe he goes for something utility-based, but we haven't seen a lot of those. And now that's a big ult that's off the mark here. Okeanos uses his, but he's just trying to stay safe. With Cozy out of the equation now, makes things a little more interesting.
That's right, ult for ult support, solo for Hunter there for the accounting department. So Okeanos a little less safe maybe, still has the crystals, but both active still there, both relics ready to go for Okeanos should he need him in these fights. Now it's exposed Phoenix on left and mid, still a tower on the right-hand side. That's where the accounting department will start to look. And there's still about 1 minute and 45 seconds left on this Fire Giant buff, Gore. So you might be able to see at least one attempt at a Phoenix Siege here from the accounting department, though with a group that likes to crunch numbers as much as they do, risk-averse in general as a bunch, maybe a delay, you go back and spend some gold, fight around the FG here in a couple minutes.
I have 1.5 minutes left on this buff. I like the call to get all the towers. I think you could feasibly back and get back to a Phoenix if you really wanted to, put some pressure on it. You would probably need to, again, work really quickly. You'd run out of the buff while you're down there. But with all these red buffs up, as well as Rapio being so far forward, it almost feels like you want to play the jungle here. You want to play for what you have, and maybe find a couple of picks as the Snake Hunters take a much further walk out than maybe they should have.
And Kalis now reaching level 18, could have gotten it at 17. Sentinel's Embrace now for the Kabrak, and that's massive in the power spike department. The rest of his team a little tankier, a little harder to kill, and they've been hard enough to kill anyway. Shoxy is going to use the uppercut, delay there on some death. Kalis just wide on the wall, is going to chase down this Kumbhakarna nonetheless. There's the stun, there's the trembles, and now there's the kill for the accounting department. Though Kumbha maybe didn't mean all that much, Gore. You're maybe fighting underneath this Phoenix's 4 anyway, so not the biggest loss for the Snake Hunters.
Yeah, at 0, 7, and 4, I'm going to go ahead and say the 4-level deficit there in support. It's definitely not the end-all, be-all. I don't think you're really worried if you're Snake Hunters. That being said, you're also a little frustrated because that ult being offline, that Mez being offline, the root being offline, all of those like forms of control and peel, that's going to make things a little easier for accounting department. But the good news is, because he's only level 14, it's 10 seconds out before he's back. He's going to make it back to this fight.
Carlos doing his best to chase down the backline. Undying Love is used here. Plenty of damage, though, returned by the Snake Hunters. Ice, half HP. Okeanos the same. Big ultimate from Rapio, and Vaporsh Coast with the snipes from range. We'll get the kill onto the accounting department. Hunter, now it's Snake Hunters putting out all this pressure. Hunter is down. Everyone back in respawn here for the Snake Hunters. This is maybe the best fight you've got in recent memory for the Snake Hunters, but accounting department's baited you in. Vaporsh Coast, I'll see you later. The walls are great from Collis once more, and now we'll return to the left side Phoenix.
They're all so low, though. I mean, you've got Aphrodite, you're in combat. This is where
Whoa!
the healing's going to be prominent, but Wolfie's up in the sky. That's not going to help the team, and there's the Ankh.
Oh, and the Aegis keeps Wolfie alive, though. Shoxy, he'll die once more. No passive for the Kumba this time, but it's a double flurry of kills for Snake Hunters on the back end. This is chaos. Reigns supreme on the left-hand side. Wolfie trying to help out his solo laner, gives some healing, get back damage, massive. Rapio doesn't die, though. Oh, the fadeaway shot there for the double. And now Cozy feeling more confident in chasing down Wolfie. You gotta watch out, that get back. You know, he chunked you down, my friend, and Wolfie might be able to get it done here. Birds ticking down the damage. Get back just shy. The Birds will get it, though. Wolfie Undying Love back off of cooldown. This is nuts. There are only two left standing on the left, and they will both take their wins and get home.
Look, if an Aphrodite at less than half health is sure of herself against you, get out of there. Don't fight it.
Leave.
If they know what they're doing, then you are in a deficit. It doesn't matter what the health difference is. She is confident, and that will kill on its own. And I think Wolfie just kind of showcases that. But now they get to respawn. It's so interesting. It's staggered out. You have people coming back. No Fire Giant started just yet for Snake Hunters, so there's an opportunity to make that path over here. First responder is Wolfie. Not really who you want to send into the fight first, but the vision will be there, and that should be enough to get Collis over here. Ice maybe to rotate in as well as the team groups back up. This Fire Giant's not falling fast enough for the accounting department to be counted out.
That's right. They're going to count themselves right back in as they work back towards the FG pit. Undying Love almost back. Fire Giant almost dead. Collis close by. Wall there to separate
Just
it.
like
and of
that.
course they do. Accounting department steal this one away. And the fight after is not looking much better for the Snake Hunters. Rapio trying to leave the fray of the engagement, but it's not going to be enough. This is a big swing now in the game. The accounting department, they've got at least one kill. They've got the FG buff, and they got their eyes on the Titan.
I mean, that is more than what you want. Okeanos on the other side of the map, no way to get over here in time, gets themselves a Fury, even more gold in your pocket at that point, but makes it a little easier at the time for them to kill that Fire Giant. The walls from Collis is what you need to talk about, though. Placed perfectly so that there's no angle from Snake Hunter's side of the map to hit the FG. They can only hit those walls, and then it's just a cleanup crew from that point forward. Walk in, get the FG, now walk in, get these Phoenixes. They have maybe one fight left before they can take this Titan. But with this kind of lead, I expect them to be able to do it.
Yeah, and you got 3 minutes left on your Fire Giant buff in order to do so. Rapio's still 20 seconds left from respawning. Still plenty of actives there. Okeanos, Aegis, and Beads. Beads for Deathwalker. I mean, the tools are there. If the accounting department want to end this game right here and right now. Instead, they're going to calculate their risk once again, maybe move to the right-hand side, get all 3 Phoenixes down, and that's exactly what this team is going to look to do, Gore. There's a 99%er you got to thank for this accounting department team, and maybe one more fight is what gets it done.
Yeah, it's that awkward moment. You don't necessarily want to dive the base when a team is grouped up the way Snake Hunters are, especially with all 5 of them. You want this fight to be around a Phoenix. Ideally, you want to pull it even further away from the Phoenix, but it doesn't seem like Snake Hunters are going to be able to run that way out of there. You can see Deathwalker going for a giant loop, going for the disruption. This is a good play because it's distracting. Look, 3 members looking left, 2 members still hanging out right, and Gunter doesn't know where to go and what to do right now. This is how you create this disruption to jump in as the accounting department and either find this Phoenix or find the kills you need to win.
Right, look, Gunter's there. We talked about Baba Yaga reaching that power spike, nearly highest damage in the game. Last time we brought it up, Gunter was down on Wolfie by a few hundred. Now he's up by a few thousand, so we're there. Now's the time for this Baba Yaga to show us that late game power. Defend this Phoenix. Another minute and 45 seconds left on the FG buff. Cozy uses the ultimate. Wolfie there in response, though, keeps himself alive with a set of beads on his own. Shoxy, weaves the uppercut right on through. That's Okeanos, Beads, Aegis, both down. And Okeanos will limp his way away on the back. Still Beads, excuse me. on that Heimdall. It was the shell used just a moment ago. Rapio uses the ult, but Ice has the damage to weave on through it. Gunter walks his way back towards the fountain, and safety is there. No kill here for the accounting department. We're diving the fountain. Gunter picks up a kill. There's another down to about half HP for the accounting department. Fire minions on the Titan Gore, and it's a brute force attack on the Phoenix to get all 3 down.
And you see that, again, a high investment. Deathwalker jumps maybe way too deep. I'm having some flashbacks to things we saw Benji do there on the world stage. But for Okeanos, they jumped back there to try and kill him. Didn't successfully do so. Burned his ult, burned his Aegis, very, very solid, but didn't get the kill. And that just opened it up for Ice and Deathwalker to run into the backline. You could see them using that side sweep that Deathwalker had set up earlier to really easily secure them. Now it's 18-9. They've got 10,000 plus, 11,000, 12,000 gold on them as they continue rising. With all of the objectives on the map taken down right now, the only thing to do is strip the jungle, buy your items, get your wards, get your potions if there are any left you need, and then go back in for a fight. You've got a very wide open space. The only spot that's really dangerous to fight in is their base. And honestly, that Titan's 75% health. You could jump in there and just straight up kill it, ignore the team. Although ignoring Baba Yaga might pay you back in a painful way.
Yeah, there's still that ever-looming threat just now, level 17 for Shoxy. So, Sentinel's Embrace still there, but a couple thousand gold shy of being able to upgrade that item just yet. So, maybe that's a difference maker that the Snake Hunters have to look forward to. You got to defend this push here. Accounting department called a minute away from this Fire Giant respawning, so they'll bide their time, ward up that jungle nice and deep. Nobody from the Snake Hunters is going to be able to work their way out. And so it's all down to a Titan defense here at this point, Gore. Maybe under those Phoenixes if that's what the accounting department want to look towards. But it's going to be an enhanced Fire Giant. You know, us as casters, we got to add some intrigue. Got to sprinkle it in there. This Fire Giant's probably the least intriguing part about the end of this game. It seems like the accounting department will get it for free.
Yeah, I mean, this is absolutely what you want to be able to see. Any kind of pressure is going to go onto your side. But I still want to say it's not done and done, like you said, that level 17. At this point, yes, there's something to be said about the starter items and being able to upgrade that, like the Tainted Steel going up now for Cozy X as having that anti-heal available for your team. But realistically, I don't know that that's as important for Shoxy as it is to just get the levels online, right? Like have your abilities up a little better and more often to help appeal for someone like Coast.
There might not be a Fire Giant fight if a Porsche. Coast is going to get caught out just like this. The rest of Snake Hunters left limping away. Cozy has to leap, Shoxy has to use his ultimate, but there's not much there. Okeanos immediately trades an ult of his own on the back line. Ice though solo uses the ultimate for the heal, but the heal does not come through. Shoxy will get whittled away as well, and Okeanos is the one who gets the kill fed over to him. It's a 2-for-1, but Gord's the duo lane down for the Snake Hunters, and it's Ice that falls for the accounting department.
A lot of the damage I just saw thrown out by the Baba Yaga, though, a little wide. Didn't connect. Phoenixes are up. Fire minions coming in on right-hand side. That should distract just enough to either get left or mid. It's either a free Fire Giant or free Phoenixes, and maybe you're lucky and you get all of those. But realistically, like you said earlier, there's not much you can do. And Rapio is now going for that Hail Mary play, right? He's going for the only thing that you can really do. I'm going to be in the area. Let's see if I can do something and try to get this Fire Giant, because if not, there's nothing else left for us. We're done if this goes the way of the accounting department.
Rapio has his ultimate, half HP on the FG, looking for a steal as Cozy as well. There's the CC. Accounting department have pulled off of the Fire Giant and said poured their damage into the Cerberus. Another brilliant wall from Callus, and Okeanos is not going to give Cozy the chance for a steal. Rapio has no mana, no health, so he'll have to leave as well. Now it's right back to the FG. Vaporsh Coast is here this time. He has the snipes. The juggling going on here by the accounting department is near inch perfect in keeping the Snake Hunters at bay, but Vaporsh Coast can hang out a little bit further back. Looking for the steal here is still this Rom, but immediately pulled off by the accounting department. This has got to get frustrating at some point for the Snake Hunters. The damage connects on Okeanos, but Deathwalker's in the back line. It's roll away from Vaporsh Coast, and Gunter is trying to escape as well.
Oh, it's not going to be able to walk out of this one. And now that the ult's down from Coast, you have the options of going for the Fire Giant or going for something else. And Okeanos is going to knock him straight up into the air. This should be a kill onto the other frontliner here. And Dave, it's just looking like they're falling like dominoes.
Yeah, one by one, Snake Hunters walk in, look for the steal, but the steal was not there. Instead, it was just a fight for the accounting department. All three Phoenixes are back, but all three Phoenixes are low and looking a little bit nervous. They don't need an FG accounting department. to end this game. Instead, it's Rapio, Cozy, Vaporsh, Cozy. You got some damage left available on the Titan defense. Rapio deleted underneath his own Titan. Vaporsh, Coast pinned down. Aegis there as well. Ice has got the auto. Cozy hasn't been able to get it done through the first 34 minutes. He won't be able to do it in the last few seconds. Accounting department, they'll get this set done in 34 minutes.
Look, 11-2-11, there's no doubt in my mind Ice should be maybe the talk of the town here, but realistically that team just played so well as a unit. I think Ice got to showcase and show off a little bit throughout all of that, but so much of it, I mean, plays being made by Wolfie, the front line, Kala setting up so many of those kills with really well-placed walls. I just think from top to bottom the accounting department really fit together. It makes me excited to see what they're going to be able to do in Europe. It seems like we have some disruption that could come from this team, so I'm excited to watch how they could explode through the scene.
Yeah, accounting department versus Elysium suddenly becomes a very interesting matchup whenever we're going to get to watch that one. That's it, though, for today here in the EU SCC. We're going to take a break, and the guys on the desk will wrap up the day.
Takes just about the same amount of time, but ultimately the exact same result. Accounting department with the 2-0 victory today over the Snake Hunters. Aggro and Mifflin here to round out our first day of the official SCC broadcast. Miff, I mean, that time around I think that the draft came together really, really well for the accounting department, and ultimately Coast and the back line of the Snake Hunters were not able to survive that Erlong Shen.
It was just an uncontestable front line, right? Between Erlong, Shen, and Kabrakan holding W with the pocket Aphrodite. Who's really going to have the space to close the gap towards the back line? I mean, I don't think anyone could have done it. And this was a game that looked a lot better from accounting department from the early onset. They were able to get their pace going very early on, and they held on to it for the majority of the match. Maybe a couple of swings here and there where it felt like Snake Hunter might be able to pull something out, but in large part, accounting department had control.
And that steal right there of the Fire Giant really just was the final nail in the coffin. While the rest of the team was on Primal Fury, Kalas and Wolfie kind of waltz up and take what is rightfully theirs in a match like this. Just too much overall damage coming from this Erlong Shen, man. Nearly 20,000 player damage on the Erlong Shen. I don't know why we don't see more Erlong, Mifflin. I mean, it feels like it's only some players who are still willing to play it. I'm not complaining because I don't have to play against it quite as much, but I feel like I should have to because I think this god is still really good.
Yeah, I think he's absolutely insane, be it support or jungle. The versatility of the build that you can go with for him, too. You can go for mannequins if you want that early pressure. If you're playing support, you can just go for one of the standard ones or even move into animosity towards late game. I think Erlang Shen is certainly a god that's getting slept on right now. But it might be due, in fact, to the changes to the sledge, how it's not nearly as great a stat stick as it used to be. So we're seeing Warriors kind of fall out of favor ever so slightly. But as I say that, I was looking at Deathwalker's build, and he picked up a sledge in that last slot.
Yeah, it seemed to do pretty well for himself. 29,000, nearly 30,000 player damage, enough to top the charts. Much better performance from Gunter, worth noting. 27k does the damage on the Baba, but not enough to get the dub. Wolfie, another fantastic game in this set. He went 2 for 2 on great games in this one. Just an overall team performance by the accounting department. That's the type of performance that I expect from a roster of this caliber. It's just a matter of if they can do it consistently.
Yeah, crazy to think that it took them 3 weeks to find their way into the qualified state, right? I mean, these guys have been absolutely grinding at it. We've got Alpha Jack on the amateur cast team. He's been talking to us about how these guys have been scrimming consistently. They're really trying to find their grind. They're taking the game incredibly seriously right now, and it shows. They're looking like a team not to be reckoned with come late game. Maybe they clean up that early game a little bit more, and Elysium's going to have to keep their eyes open.
Excited to see that matchup down the line as we take a look at the standings after day one of the Smite Challenger Circuit here in Europe. Elysium, Accounting Department, and Pandemonium all end up on top. Pandemonium, the only team that needed an extra game to get their victory, and that's why they are sitting in third. Elysium and Accounting Department tied for that first overall slot. Overall, I mean, you're looking at teams like Just F6, like Clay Soldiers and Snake Hunters. I mean, those are some talented squads, particularly that Clay Soldiers team that had to go up against Elysium today. I'm excited to see what they're going to bring. I don't think they're going to be at the bottom for very long. Just a matter of how the schedule pans out for them. Speaking of the schedule, let's take a look at what we've got here in North America. Tomorrow, the Herculean Hoofs up against Sturdy Artisans. That should be a really, really good match to kick us off, so make sure you're here nice and early tomorrow at 11 a.m. That is Baskin and the boys, formerly known as Baskin and the boys, for the Herculean Hoofs, and Sino's Sturdy Artisans. So that's going to be a good one to kick off the North American Smite Challenger Circuit.
Yeah, I mean, the Sturdy Artisans draft, I mean, we got to get some more name recognition out there. You got to let them know. They got Stewart, Ionic, even Pagon over there, Relentless One. This is a ton of talent across the board. I am not stretching the truth when I say that the first set tomorrow is going to be SPL caliber.
Yes, agreed. I think those are the best two teams in the SCC currently. Elysium right on the cusp there. We'll see if they can keep their insane win streak going. I think they might be able to get on here in the SCC. Well, thanks so much, everybody, for watching. It was a good first day here for the official productions team. So for all the casters, for everyone back in production who made it work, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow for North America. You can peach it.